Lunchtime.
It's lunch, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm running behind. I still haven't got my chat screen up. I'm working on it.
You
I
have
was
a,
I
a
was.
certain type of chat screen up, just not the one you need.
It's true. I was playing with ChatGPT right in the lead up feverishly. I put the
Mm-hmm.
reason we're 3 minutes late is because I was delighted in ChatGPT. Okay, that's up there. Welcome
I was
everybody.
also doing a little AI work too because
Were you?
yeah, I needed to. Uh, People on stream know what I'm talking about. They saw it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What? Look at
Oh,
that man. Look at that beautiful
Jesus.
specimen.
Okay. Okay. Thumb Diesel over there.
Uh huh.
I've got a few things I want to talk about. We Adeptus Titanicus finally hit the table.
Yes, it did.
So if you don't know, this is a uh, old school miniature wargaming game. And it's from the Warhammer family. It's set in the Warhammer 40K universe. Warhammer 30K to be technical. This is set during the Horus Heresy. Um, and it involves giant robots trying to destroy each other. Like the smallest robots are something like 20 meters tall. I think the biggest is something like 60, 70 meters tall. And I bought late last year I bought the base set that comes with six Titans, three apiece to play with. And it's about just in case you're excited, I want to pre-dampen the excitement. This is a $140 base game,
Yeah.
and you probably need to spend another $140 to compete with a friend if you want to play a full size game.
Wow.
Um, and I've got at least 30 hours into assembling these fucking things and giving them a base coat of primer with a little zenithal highlighting. I'm
And you
like,
built a bunch of terrain,
I
like
built a bunch of
makeshift terrain.
terrain. I put a lot of money. I got a lot of time and money into the enjoyment we received out of it, and also like these are not tournament legal. Like I couldn't take these to a Warhammer event and play them because they are unpainted. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess the standard of paint and polish on Titans is somewhat higher than the main base game. So like yeah, I couldn't just take these and play. You could play with friends and stuff, but you couldn't play any kind of sanctioned event. Having said
Out of
all that,
curiosity, there's a barrier to entry there. Is there any barrier to entry to your knowledge? Like, what if you showed up having never played a game of Warhammer before and said, "Here's my army. It's legal. I'm gonna play." What do they
I don't think you have
do?
to know any lore. What are you talking
Yeah, but
about?
like
Are you talking
rules,
about? But
like the
you,
rules of the game. If you
oh,
don't know the rules and you show up to a tournament and say, "I'm ready to play and I have all my men," whatever.
honestly, knowing the community, they'd probably be like, "Well, you can't play in a tournament because that would be stupid." But like, why don't one of the many people who are thrilled that someone's taken an interest in Adeptus Titanicus can, take you to a side table and show you how to
Mm-hmm.
play, and then I don't know, maybe you enter after that. But I don't know. I don't. I honestly, it would never occur to me to go to
Right.
a
That'd be
licensed
stupid.
Warhammer event. Yeah, like I.
Uh,
I was pretty skeeved out by the limited Magic the Gathering tournaments, and the barrier to entry to that so much lower than one of these Warhammer things.
mhm.
What I'm curious, what was your opinion on the? We spent about 3.5 total hours
Yeah.
setting up the terrain. We watched a video, but it was like a month ago, 2 months ago, and I had vague recollections, but I decided to kind of
Mhm.
read through the basic rules real quick and play through. We actually went 2 or 3 rounds beyond the recommended round length because we just wanted to see when the big titans die.
Turns out never.
Uh,
They never die. It's
no,
impossible to
not with
kill a
the
Titan.
way we were playing it wrong to be killing the big titans. What
Yeah.
was your opinion on the way Titanic is played?
I really liked it. I think it was a really fun game to play, and I think the whole aspect of like the model building part of it would be super attractive to me. It's kind of the whole package for a hobby game. It's like
Yeah,
you get to play the cool game after you build the cool models and the cool terrain, and it's one of those things where like if you're gonna get real serious about it, you can, right? You can say, well, I'm going to customize my army with this particular color that means this thing for the lore, and designates it as such and such army, and then you can like change out the weapons individually on your
Hmm.
pieces. Like you magnetized all these things to where you could pull an arm off, like pull a laser cannon off and put a rocket launcher on or whatever, or
Yeah,
a chain fist or something.
sure.
So you can like really deck out your guys, and that has like a meaning. The visual of your Titan means something to the rules of the game, which I think is cool. Yeah, and I thought it played once we got the hang of it a little bit more. I thought it played pretty quick too. That was pretty attractive because I remember I don't. So I have vague recollections of this, but my cousin had a giant table set up. I don't know if it was for Warhammer back in the day or if it was for like some other epic strategy game. But he
Right.
would leave that thing set up for months at a time because he would have games going that would last 5 sessions or whatever with his
Sure.
friends. It doesn't seem like you need to do that, but if you did have more armies, you certainly probably could do that. But I think you could plow through a game of this in a day pretty easily.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing is like if you get a Warhammer 40K army or Age of Sigmar army and it's like 2,000 points, you might have 75 to 100 dudes that you have to keep track of, all their stats, their wound
Wow.
points, all that kind of stuff, and
Wow.
you have to move them all. And you can see that that would take a long time to do. Titanic is like
Yeah,
the most you'd ever have is like 6 dudes to keep track of.
we had 3 each in that starter
Hmm.
set. And I felt like that was a good number, but I would have liked a few more. But I also would have liked a slightly larger play field, I think, if I
I
had
think
more
because
dudes.
my kitchen table I think it needs to be a foot big. Especially imagine like if you had a full 6 Titans, how would you keep track of their command terminals? Like you
Right.
need a sizable amount of table space. Just and their command terminals are there's like a little 6x4 card that has
Hmm.
all the Titans' vital statistics. It has slots at the bottom to put the weapons that you've chosen for the table. It tracks all their health with like these little counters and stuff. Their shield layers. It tracks individual damage to their limbs, their bodies, their heads. Um, and you have 5 of them. Obviously, I don't know what's 6x4 times 5. That's almost a board game's size that takes up on your table. Then the terrain. I had a 4x4, 4 foot by 4 foot terrain map, and it's kind of hanging off the tables. And then
There's
you have the
got to
Titans
be
themselves.
there's got to be like a great iPad app for this,
I was
right?
actually
Where you can
wondering
just
about
like
that
swipe
too.
to get to your
Yeah.
different characters and it shows it full screen.
I still don't think it'd be as handy though, because like maybe unless it had like a dashboard where you could see the vitals of all your Titans, because like some of
Yeah.
the strategy is like, okay, who's got what health left, who, or in your
Hmm.
repair phase, who needs to cool their reactor down, who needs to charge their shields.
Yeah, at a
I
glance
was
it might not be as good, but I'm
I
gonna get
was
like a TV tray to set beside me, a
I was thinking the
secondary
exact
table.
same. The next time you came over to play, I was going to ask if you'd bring those TV trays over to be our sideboards.
I have one. Which
Oh, I
other?
thought you had. I thought you had two because I remember using one when we were doing streams from your basement when we were in exile that one time, and I used it
Uh
as my
huh.
little desk.
Yeah, I
So you
think
just have
that's the
one of
only one I
those.
have. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I need to go to that home store and get a couple. Because yeah, it's the perfect thing. It's the perfect thing.
I think so. I think they would all fit on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
really liked it. I thought it was a pretty smooth game.
It didn't occur to me while I was building and reading the rules, but this plays a lot like a nautical ship of the line type of game where these Titans are big. Well, the bigger they are, the more big and unwieldy and slow they are. They're kind of plodding.
Hmm.
It's all about maneuvering and firing arcs and making sure you can put the most amount of firepower on the enemy while shielding your guys's. And it just, I don't know, it felt really flavorful. Like that time you had your knight, who is the smallest of Titans, and you got around the flank position of my large Reaver Titan, which is the biggest Titan that we had played. And you just had this little spear, this little melee spear, and you were just jabbing my Titan's beehole. And I could not get that thing dislodged.
No, it's
Like
too fast.
yeah, like I couldn't step forward far enough. I couldn't back up. And I'm just like, it seems like on the battlefield, you'd have this Reaver, like just that's trying to step around, and the knight is just under his legs, jab, jab, jab. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the reason we couldn't kill this, like, number one, we were very cautious. Like I think we had too much
Uh,
terrain on the board. We
yes.
had like it was very effective at screening your Titans from fire if you carefully maneuvered, and we were being very careful. I don't even think we made contact for the first two rounds. We were just like tiptoeing
Of
around,
a
you know,
four
hiding.
round game, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Half the game
yeah.
we didn't even encounter each other.
And then like you got so lucky on my knight. I left my knight exposed for one round of combat, and I thought minorly
Hmm.
exposed, but you just obliterated him. Just like bam, 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 took him off the board. So now I'm down to two Titans against three,
Huge
and
advantage.
it was
That's
a
what let
huge
me get
advantage.
around your bigger Titan and start jabbing
Yeah.
you.
So I started trying to like burst down your Warhound, which is the medium, and I was
It
being
was
fairly
effective.
successful. Like I had stripped your shields down to nothing, and I was going to start doing real damage, but you had, even though my big Titan had its full shields, when you're in melee range, you ignore the shields. So your little
Yeah.
knight had whittled my legs down to I was going to probably take critical damage in the next round and probably explode. But I wanted, man, because that's the other thing. This game's so much fun. There's a lot of random elements to it. Like when a Titan dies, you roll a 10-sided dice to see one of 10 ridiculous things it's going to do.
Hmm.
Like it might explode and do ridiculous damage to everything within 6 inches of it on the table. It might topple over and like wildly fire all of its weapons in random directions. It
Yeah, that's
uh
awesome.
yeah, and I was thinking like that would be cool. The other thing I think we did as a mistake is we didn't know what we were doing. We're just like, which weapons look cool, snap them on, let's play. I think we prized for like long range weaponry. And
Hmm.
I think if I'm getting the vibe of this game, if you have a Titan with long range weapons, you would load it up with range weapons, and it would kind of be in standoff range, trying to pick off people and but like
Yeah, you wouldn't want to mix and
weapons,
match.
the long range weapons aren't as hard hitting as the medium, the short range. Because yeah, like
Yeah.
one of those Titans has a chainsaw the size of like a four-story office building, and I wanted to get you in, but your big Titan had just enough moves to always step out of that 2 inch melee range at the end of movement, and I was like, I was wanting to slam you with this power fist so bad.
I was a little worried at the end because the entire game I was able to like once I took out your knight, I was able to outflank you because I had more guys.
Right, right.
And I had kind of had like my guys clustered toward the center a little bit, blocking your line of sight to the other guy's back, like
Yeah, you were very
back to
effective with that.
back in a circle kind of thing. And I stepped out to get a better shot on you one time. I stepped out with one of my pieces, kind of
Hmm.
out to the side and behind you, and got a decent shot in on you. But I left that spot open to where I then had to step out of range on the other end with my larger Titan to keep from getting hit. And I opened up an opportunity for you to take that encircled position that might have helped you out. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do enough damage to you in time to make that not a mistake. So if we played out a few more rounds, I'm not sure what would have happened there. Because
Yeah, I would like
you were
to.
about to step in through some terrain where I couldn't get my knight around you.
Right, right.
Like maybe the next round, but it
Plus, your
was
knight only
late.
had one like one hit left on it, right? I
Yeah, if
never
you
could
were
get that
able to get a
last.
hit, because I never gave you line of sight, I would always hide behind your Titan
Yeah,
so that you can
yeah,
never hit him. Yeah.
yeah. And you're doing flank damage. It was that thing was brutalizing my giant Titan in a way because I've heard that that's the risk. That's a risk reward. These Titans are these glass cannons, these knights. But if you can get them in melee range underneath the legs of larger Titans, you can do some. And boy, you were.
And we're
So
supposed to
yeah,
have a few more of those, right? For like a full game.
yeah, I think because like those deploy in sets of three. Like because I was looking at
Mm.
them like 120 points for a knight. Jesus, it's like 240 for a warhound. Two warhounds are way better than two knights, but that's for three knights.
Do they
You
move
could
as a unit?
deploy. No, but they do get a lot of bonuses if you keep them together. Did you know? Like they don't
Huh.
have
I wasn't
void
reading
shield.
around too much.
They don't have, well, this is just on the card. They don't have void shields like the big Titans do, but they have these ionic shields, and apparently they can overlap. So if the units are within like 3 inches of each other, they get like the ability to shrug off some of the larger weapons like the big Titans do.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
and then you've got one you designate the leader, and like there's like morale, like if you can kill the leader, the other units take morale penalties, and
Nice.
but
Yeah. I don't know. It'd probably take us another, like you said, $140 to fill out that's set there.
or
But
or
or this is another aspect of the
or
game that
a
I'm
couple
excited
bucks worth
about.
of resin
Uh huh. Uh huh.
and Jim's 3D printer.
There's a lot of so there are official models out there that you can find which are not
Yeah.
sanctioned. They definitely don't want you downloading those, but they're out there. There are also just like a bunch of user-made models, which
Uh-huh.
is pretty cool. And those are either very cheap online to buy the STL file and print them, or
Yeah.
free in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So
And you can
it feels like the nexus of all the things that I think are cool: strategy
I
gaming,
also
modeling, 3D printing, just like all of it.
I also saw that Games Workshop is giving away the command terminals. Like there's a PDF you can download that has every possible one.
Huh.
And you can buy the weapon card packs if you want to be legit for like $9 for every for like you can buy the Warlord Titans weapon packs for $9 and has all the cards for the stats for everything. Or again, you can print those out. And you could use like a Coke can for like a Warlord.
Sure. Sure.
Like you couldn't do that in a tournament because it is very what you see is what you play. And that like, if your Space Marine is holding a plasma cannon and you want him to have a heavy bolter, well, too fucking bad. You either have to magnetize his hands so you can switch out the weapon,
Or buy a new
but like,
figure and
yeah, like
and
in
build that.
yeah, in any kind of officially sanctioned thing, you have to have the weapons that that's the appeal of it is like you look if you're a commander looking in the field, you know exactly what you're facing. And I really liked it. It's I've never played a game where you don't have a grid
Mm-hmm.
or like
Same
some
here.
kind of hex thing. Like it's like, do you want this Titan can move 6 inches, or if you push its reactor, it can move 9 inches.
And it can turn
And
exactly up to 45 degrees
yeah,
twice or three times or whatever.
yeah. And there's a lot of like some of the heavier weapons are like even if you miss, you're going to hit something. Like you
Mm.
launch like this plasma cannon, and like if you miss the Titan, yes, you're going to miss, but that plasma ball is going to land somewhere in the battlefield, and there's like rules for you roll a dice that has an arrow on it, and that direction the arrow lands is the direction the shot drifts, and you roll another dice. It's how many inches it drifts. You can sometimes hit your own dude.
Uh-huh.
I was kept on trying to kind of bank shot these things to pick off that knight that was jabbing my other Titan's beehole, but
Yeah, I got lucky.
yeah, it was. I was pleased. I was pleased by how fun and quick it is to play. I could easily see like a 5-on-5 Titan game lasting 60 to 120 minutes, an hour or two, as normal people would say.
Well, you're not a normal person anymore. You've played Warhammer.
That's right. I'm a princep. Yeah, it's super fun. It played exactly how I was hoping. And I think the other thing is like you're not. I don't think you're supposed to be cautious in this game. Like, and the
Okay.
advanced rules introduce the machine spirit element, which is in Warhammer 40K, they banned the use of AI because they had a whole robot war and thinking machines have been outlawed. But these Titans are actually ancient. They some of the bigger ones are tens of thousands of years old. They're from an earlier age of humanity, and the tech priests don't know it, but they have raging AI inside of them that they call
Mm.
machine spirits. And these things also fuse with the spirit with the mental engrams of all the people who have piloted them for
Hmm.
thousands
Like
of
a
years.
Pacific
And
Rim. Sure.
yeah, and it's one of my favorite conceits in AI or in science fiction is like the Honorverse has this stuff too. Like their warships want to kill. Like they're designed and they're programmed, they're optimized. Like they have the perfect bodies, the perfect weapons, and they enjoy killing things.
Hmm.
And like there's a whole mechanic that we haven't gotten to in a death where you have to like roll your successful check against the machine spirit because like you might want to target this other, but the Titan's machine spirit sees a guy right in front of it, and it's like I'm going to kill it, and unless you have the willpower to best the machine, it's going to briefly take control or do something, go kill nuts on you.
Hmm.
So there's some. It feels like the game is designed. You're not supposed to like stealthily stalk each other through canyons of city. You're supposed to like just go and
Yeah,
beat the
yeah.
shit out of each other.
Yeah.
So
Well, that was our first experience with it, so
yeah.
sure I'm not playing the game optimally. I'll believe that.
I'm gonna try to go like ultra aggressive next game, just like
Uh-huh.
straight into it, not try to take cover, just try to get into close range, try to get more close range and medium range, unless we're
Hmm.
playing on like a sheet of 4x8 plywood. Anyway,
Yeah, we'll see. We've got a nice big kitchen table, like a rectangular kitchen
you
table
do,
here that might work out pretty well for that. So
yeah, yeah,
might
yeah.
give it a shot here.
I think we might have lost like all of the lunch people. We're
No,
talking
like
about the stupid
45 people
game.
here. We're good.
All right. Do you have any other thoughts on Do you have anything you want to talk about?
Uh, Not really. I've been doing a lot of preparation for building my next model. I'm going to do this 1/1000 scale Defiant, and I've been doing a lot of trying to get strobe circuits to work,
Hmm.
flashers as they call them. Uh,
What is that going to do?
it's going to let me put strobe lights on the model.
What kind of strobe? What kind of strobe lights does Defiant? Are you going to do like weapon
It's
effects
got two
or?
up front. No, no, it's so it has just strobes on it. I don't know what their technical term for those is, but like top and bottom up front on the
Oh, like navigational lights?
I don't know.
Like
Like I
the stuff
said,
the
I don't know.
airplanes have in the sky when you see them going over it and they're blinking
Uh
because
huh.
it's
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Nav lights. All right. Yeah, they've got like six of those on the Defiant, and I've been trying to figure out how to make my own circuit for that because it turns out it's kind of expensive to get. You can get just like straight up flasher LEDs, which I probably should have done, but I don't know. I'm taking it as an opportunity to learn a little bit of electronics as well. So I'm starting with that. Last night I cut all the model parts off the sprue and I started to clean those up. All my parts are coming in today, so I'm going to mess with the electronics on that. But yeah, beyond that, I've just been, working every night, watching something and outlining it
Hmm.
and all that. So
Yeah,
not a ton going on.
now we got I got the Titanicus done. I'm looking to start my actual Space Marine squad because I've got about 30
Hmm.
dudes to put together,
You can't
and
use
I
those in
haven't.
Adeptus Titanicus though, right?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
They're wildly the Space Marine to be about the size of a grain of rice on the
Yeah.
table with the
Yeah.
Titanicus, is from what I can tell. But again, I don't think I'll ever play Warhammer 40K, but I do like putting together the models, and I kind of want to do some dioramas or maybe I notice a lot of guys seem like their goal is to like have a whole company of Space Marines. That's like
Hmm.
each chapter of 1,000 Space Marines has 10 companies usually, and there's like first through 10th company, and they all have different kind
100.
of roles and a lot of it seems like a lot of guys like to have like a full company, where they have like the captain and the two lieutenants and the four or five six sergeants and the tech marines and your apothecary and all the different support dudes and the armor and components and like I have like this and I think that's like 4 or 5 thousand points worth. But this guy that I follow, Luton, has like 2.5 companies of Ultramarines. He's just got a massive collection, and probably, got a ton of orcs, ton of oh, what are the alien looking things? Tyranids. Yeah, and he's been doing this since he was 12 years old, and he's like my age now. So he just
Right.
has massive amounts of this stuff.
Hmm.
Um, Let's. Oh, how big is your Defiant? If it's 1/1000 scale, I don't. Is that like a
Yeah.
hockey puck? Is that a dinner plate?
It's about the size of your palm.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, Palm. It's about the size of your whole hand, fingers included, not palm.
Okay. Let's move on to the listener participation part of this here experiment.
Hold
There's three
on.
ways.
Hold on. Chocolate
Yes.
Mike says I
What?
tried to start the Warhammer books, but I have no idea where to start. So that's a huge problem for me for the game too. I was just so confused. Do you have any advice on that stuff?
Man, as a guy who's tried to get into the Warhammer novels a couple of times, it's a problem. The default answer is do the Eisenhorn saga, the first book in the Eisenhorn. So this Eisenhorn is an Imperial Inquisitor, which is kind of like the state police of the Imperium of Man. and as such, you get a good his investigations give you a good primer of the world and universe, and it's one of their better authors, and it's in a pretty engaging, pretty easy to understand story. And you will meet Space Marines, and you will meet Chaos Space Marines, and you will meet different Xenos and all the other factions. But it's a pretty good introduction to the lore. The other one is a lot of people begin with is Horus Rising, which is the very beginning of the Horus Heresy, which is set in the Warhammer 30K universe, which gives you like how the world began. But I don't know. Like I've heard it said that like what you should do is get into the lore, like start going to the Lexicanum, which is like such a Wikipedia, and just start reading, and whatever faction you're most interested in, try to find a book that like centers on them. But I just almost exclusively participate in the lore. Luton '09 is another one on a Warhammer, or is a good Warhammer YouTuber that gives a lot of really good kind of like lore backgrounds. He has a whole playlist that takes you through like chronologically or by faction. There's a lot of different ways you could split it. But I've yet to get into the quote unquote Black Library.
Whoa.
I never made it through the Eisenhower trilogy. I got to book 2, and it was good. The first book was okay. I thought the second book was quite a bit better, and I've heard that it keeps on getting better. But I got way late on other things. I haven't read a book. I'm telling on myself. I haven't read a book in like 4 months.
Yeah.
I was really churning
Boy.
through them at the early stage of 2022, and I feel like House of the Dragon hit, and it sucked all the oxygen out of my room.
Yeah, I still haven't finished Blake Crouch's new book, Upgrade. I need to get on that.
Wook says, "Did y'all see the Lumen box I'm seeing on Twitter? Severance promo thing? No, I wouldn't expect to though, because we kind of got on it late and we didn't do any public facing coverage of it. I hope we get screeners for it. That'd be cool. But yeah, they've been giving out Lumen boxes, like little promo things for different fan accounts and like professionals. So yeah, 3 ways you can get lunch questions and topics into us. Number 1, the forums.baldmove.com. If you're an old school club member, you can go there. There's a VIP section. Every Monday, there's a lunch thread posted. Put something in there. Discord, if you're on Patreon, discord.baldmove.com. Check out the hashtag lunch channel there. Anything posted in there is fair game. And finally, Twitter. If you post a hashtag bald lunch on Twitter, you could get noticed on there too. First up, Jasmine from DC says, "Happy almost Aloha Friday." Happy Aloha Friday, actual, Jasmine. I have 2 questions. Have either of you watched The Warrior on HBO, previously on Cinemax? And if so, what did you think about it? If not, the newest season is on HBO for this year. It's got a huge grassroots following and campaign after its initial cancellation, and HBO ended up renewing it, similar to The Expanse. I did hear about this. So this was like the newest action drama coming out of the Cinemax stable, and it's like very martial arts heavy, very kind of Bruce Lee inspired. And I was a big fan of like, was it Strike Back? And it's particularly Banshee. So I always kind of wanted to check it out. I just never had an opportunity. So I haven't seen it, but it definitely looks like it's up my alley. But my God, so much stuff that looks like it's up my alley I don't get a chance to see anymore. And you haven't? You're not aware of the Warrior?
No, I've not seen it.
Or it's just Warrior, actually. She says, "If you've already discussed Warrior on Lunch with Jim and Aaron, I apologize because I've not listened to a Lunch with Jim and Aaron since the start of the pandemic. I told myself I was saving them because I wanted to listen to them in chronological order, but it's really gotten away from me. Kind of like when you had a half-read book sitting around for too long and dread picking it back up for no reason than that you've fallen behind."
Mm-hmm.
I actually can really relate to this.
Totally.
How important do you think it is to listen to them in any order? Any favorites over the last 2.5 years I would start with?
Oh, God. I don't remember last week, let alone 2.5 years.
I suck so bad at these questions. Chat, is there any particularly good lunches in the last 2.5 years? Obviously, the Christmas lunches are not a bad place to start.
Sure. Got a few of those.
I feel like there's been. I mean, I don't know. Like it's very rare that after I record a lunch, I think that was a bad lunch.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we've had some good ones of late, though. The Ghost of Bill 366. The Ghost of Billy Joel was pretty funny.
Ghost of
Three
Joel.
365 bathroom pass. That's a banger.
Yeah, Gnarl says do the ones with the funniest titles. I think that's a pretty good guideline. If it had a funny title, it probably was a good funny bit in there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, and they almost always have funny titles. Um, so yeah, there's a bunch of good ones. I yeah, if you want to cherry pick them, I'd go for the Christmas lunches. And then yeah, I don't just check for things that Talitha does a pretty good job at putting kind of like synopsis or like at least kind of topic or the highlights in the preview. So you can literally just go to the Lunch Gym and on tag on baldmove.com and just scroll through, and if you see something funny, dive into it. But yeah, I don't think I don't feel like often that we do terrible lunches. Probably because the listeners are at least half the content.
Oh yeah,
Um,
they prop us up.
let's see. What are people saying? Nina says the one where the sound was out and Aaron put on a whole bunch of filters was good. Remember which one that was. Tommy Dingo, whichever one Aaron talks about hitting the back wall.
Oh right, that's the title of it too. Something like I'm gonna hit the back wall.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Poop in a sink. That's a deep cut. That's got to be
Hmm.
5 years plus ago. The when we're missing with the face app. Is that a really long one, or have we done face rig stuff lately with like the AI face generator things? I don't think we did any of that.
I don't think so, but boy, I mess with that stuff like every other week, so I'm not sure.
Um, so yeah, you have fun catching up to lunch, and don't feel bad about being. But just pick one out of the stack and take it down. Wondered Object says, Happy Friday. What's the longest you've driven straight? I drove down to LA yesterday and got caught in stupid traffic, and this drive turned into a grueling 8 hours. I know that's normal for some people, but I found out it's definitely not for me. Longest straight road trip, Jim.
So when I was in my early 20s, roommate and I decided we were living in Indianapolis, and we decided we were going to drive down to San Antonio, Texas, for a LAN party with a bunch of our
Sure.
online friends who we'd never met. So we drove down there, and I pretty much drove the whole way through, with the exception of like 2 hours at the end. But that turned out to be an 18-hour drive, so it's probably like 16 hours is the farthest I've driven in one shot without sleeping.
Um, I've driven from straight shot from Indianapolis to like Summit County, like Breckenridge, and I think that's an 18 to 20 hour drive. I used to drive Indianapolis to like Fort Walton Beach, Florida, which is like a 10 to 12 hours.
Mm.
I drove to my dad's place in Fort Myers, his winter condo that he rents. That's like a 16-hour drive. Yeah, I do a lot, yeah, because I've most of my life I've been kind of too poor to fly, especially once you get a wife and kid.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of places just driving, and you want to maximize your time off, and you want to save even more money. You don't stop and get a hotel. You just like shotgun a bunch of caffeine and keep on driving.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah,
most
those Red
grueling thing
Bulls.
I've ever done is I drove just over a thousand. I rode just over 1,000 miles on my motorcycle in one shot. I did from
Ooh,
Indianapolis to upstate New York, and it was just over 1,000 miles, and that was brutal. That's brutal.
well, that's what, a 10-hour drive. I assume you're going
It's an hour
100 on your
drive.
motorcycle.
It was a lot longer than that because every 120 miles I had to stop for gas and
Oh,
to
okay.
like stretch and air my butt out. But yeah, I got rained on 3 times too. So
Oh,
like I got
yeah.
soaked and then I was slightly too cold for an hour until I dried out and then I got rained on. Yeah. Anyway, I did it to myself. Wonders, have you ever been to Disneyland or Disney World? Do you have favorite memories? Not me. See,
Yeah,
grew up too
yeah.
poor.
Been to
I've
both.
never been to Disney World or Disneyland.
So we used to live in California, so obviously I've been to Disneyland quite a few times. Uh, I've been to Disney World at least once that I can remember because we had some not relatives. We called him our uncle, but it was just one of Dad's old friends out in Fort Lauderdale, and so we'd go out there every once in a while and then head down to Orlando. Um, any favorite memories? I don't know. I don't really have a lot of like specific memories of it because I was pretty young at the time. But I would like to go again. I feel like it's been it's been probably 30 it's been 30 plus years since I've been to Disney World. I would kind of like to go down there at least one more time, see the Star Wars stuff. And my wife's never been to one of those big parks, so it'd be nice to take her.
Finally, if you could have any video game be given the HBO treatment, what series would you go with? Me personally, I'd go nuts for them to do an all-out BioShock series.
Ooh, that could be cool.
I honestly don't know what video games would make a good series. Like I mentioned Half-Life a couple weeks ago, but man, that's a
Mhm.
really thin story. If you take out all the combat
Yeah.
and adventure and horror of it, like there's almost no one that you go through it completely solo. That's the saving grace of The Last of Us. It's a buddy. It's essentially a buddy adventure, right? A
Hmm.
road trip. It's a road trip on top of all the zombie killing you got to do. Another great game with a fantastic story, Shadows of the Colossus, is even worse. I don't even know what the fuck a movie of Shadows of the Colossus would look like because it's like it's not meant to be. I mean, a lot of these things are just like they're not. It'd be like, what's the best football movie you can film? Think about all the football movies you love and how much football is actually in them. The
Mm.
majority of the film is about the coach and about the players and about the players' girlfriends and about the what they can believe in themselves. Like the actual game is, 15 minutes of the 2 hour runtime, right? And I feel like a lot of video
Hmm.
games suffer the same way, where it's like you need some kind of meta narrative or the game itself has to have that. Um, Because like I'm thinking like I honestly I have not played BioShock, but that suffers from the same
Mm.
problem where it's like it's a lone dude that goes through this lonely game killing people, and every 45 minutes or stuff or so he finds a journal entry
Yeah.
or he'll get a radio reception, and like I don't know that you can make a movie out of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of lore behind it. You have to it'd have to be a pretty big departure from
Yeah.
the actual like gameplay. Well, where Last of Us is pretty close to the actual gameplay and storyline. But yeah, you could do something in the BioShock universe that isn't game based, I guess. People are
Um,
saying Mass Effect. I think that would be a very good one.
role-playing games are a good exception because you usually have a
Hmm.
party that, has some kind of overarching goal and they have regular conversations and debate. Yeah, you could probably make some pretty banger things out of Final Fantasy or
Oh, Wook says Red Dead Redemption. Yeah, yeah, that's like right
never
along
played that
those
one.
lines. You could do a Grand Theft Auto kind of thing. Any of those.
Yeah, or I guess you could do Skyrim, like set like it where the
Hmm.
main, Imperials versus whatever they are. Stormguard, what is their I forget the
The
original one
Khajiit.
had. Yeah,
I don't know.
the
I
Imperials
don't
versus
remember.
Khajiit.
Hmm.
You could do stuff like that. But it's tough. Like I said, the video games are not set to be adapted to movies. And I think a lot of the previous failures of stuff is just like, oh, you get a Super Mario Brother game movie. What the fuck is that going to look like? I guess we'll find out with this new Chris Pratt project, but the Bob
Hmm.
Hoskins Leguizamo one is nuts. It's just
Yeah,
nuts. It's a fever dream.
I love it for that. But you're right. It's crazy.
God, I I do love that movie. Um,
Yeah. So Factorio. Let's get the Factorio movie. I mean, shit. If they could make a battleship movie, if they could make a what's the other one? Like a Peggle. Let's get Peggle. HBO's Peggle.
Lemmings.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle says Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley would
That's
be
solitary.
kind of cute.
I guess it's not. You have the
It
town.
just it'd be a crazy like love simulator, right? Like people, you just be
It
you
would just
trying
be
to,
Minari, is what it would be.
yeah,
Cast Stephen Yun, get him in there farming. He goes
yeah.
into
You're right.
town. Yeah,
You're
tries to
right.
interact with people. There's a spiky haired dude who hates his guts. I don't know.
They ought to have a update to Stardew Valley, which just has a new family, and it's the Minari family.
Uh huh. C Drive says
Uh,
Tubin. I didn't think anybody else knew what Tubin was. Holy
Fucking
shit.
Tubin. I love Tubin. That's the thing where you're going down the river and
Collecting the
you can
letters and yep.
you can control each hand, like, so you can paddle them together, you can paddle them individually to turn around. Yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Awesome game.
Freddie says, you guys ever play Saga Frontier? It's my favorite RPG. What's yours and why?
No.
Favorite? I'm assuming you're talking about computer role playing game. My favorite, it probably
Boy.
have to be like, honestly, it's probably Dragon Warrior. It's the first one I played for the Nintendo,
Wow.
and like I feel like it'd either be that or Wasteland for Commodore 64, which everyone says is like the spiritual prequel to Fallout.
Okay.
Those are the two ones I played like as a 12-year-old, and they have a pretty big grip on my imagination. I didn't like Knights of the Old Republic, surprisingly.
What? Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that one. I would say it's
I don't know,
either.
man. Something about that didn't feel like. I felt a lot like a reskin of Dungeons and Dragons for Star Wars, which, surprise, surprise, it was. I felt the same way
Yeah.
about that the Wizards of the Coast D20 Star Wars. Like, this feels like advanced Dungeons and Star Wars.
Like the tabletop game? Or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
for sure.
Um,
Freddie in chat mentions Final Fantasy VII. Yes, I really liked Final Fantasy VII back in the day. Haven't played it in a while. I I was more of a fan of Grandia 2. Grandia, I don't know how you say it. Grandia 2 on the Dreamcast. I don't know if it was just
deep
because that
cut.
was like the only one of the only Dreamcast games I had at the time, or if that was because it's a really good game. But I really got into Grandia 2. I would say probably my favorite of all time is Skyrim. I mean, it's a great game. I spent over 100 hours in that game. You could fill your house with apples. I did that.
Yeah. Uh, Man, I'm really looking forward to. Is it Starfall? Starfield?
Yes,
What? It's
Starfield.
the. God, that looks good. Is that coming out this year?
Supposedly, but
Man, I guess I have
we'll
to beat
see.
Elden Ring because I've really fallen off Elden Ring. I haven't played it in like 2, 3
Oh
weeks.
man, yeah.
Wonton says, "Hey guys, ask ChatGPT to write a question to ask Jim and Aaron a bald move for the lunch podcast. This
All
is
right.
ChatGPT's question. Jim and Aaron, as co-host of Bald Move podcast, you both bring unique perspectives and opinions to your discussions. What has been your favorite episode or moment to record together, and what makes your dynamic as co-host so special?" Well, Wonton, two can play at this game. I ask ChatGPT to respond to this question as if it was Aaron from Bald Move. And it
Nice.
said, "Thanks for the question. Jim and I have been recording podcasts together for over a decade, and we've had a lot of great moments over the years. It's hard to pick just one episode or moment, but if I had to choose, I'd say our coverage of the final season of Breaking Bad stands out to me as particularly special. That was a show we both loved. We're both really invested in how it would end. It was a wild ride, and I think our discussions during that season really brought out some of our best analysis and commentary. As far as our dynamic as co-host, I think what makes it special is we have different perspectives and approaches to analyzing media. Jim tends to be more analytical and detail-oriented, while I'm more focused on the emotional and thematic elements of a story. But we both have a deep love and appreciation for storytelling, and I think that comes through in our discussions. We also have a great rapport with each other, and we're not afraid to challenge each other's ideas or push back on each other's opinions. This can lead to some truly lively debates, but it also helps us arrive at a more nuanced and thoughtful understanding of the media we're discussing. Overall, I think our dynamic as co-host is a big part of what keeps Bald Move going for all these years, and I feel lucky to be able to work with Jim and have these discussions with him every week."
Honestly, I was gonna say we both like to tell poop jokes, but okay, that works too.
It's funny because I actually right before I asked it to answer as you, and it was a lot
Oh
of the
no.
same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But it said, I think one of the most memorable moments was during our coverage of the first season of Westworld. We had so many theories and ideas about what was going on in the show, and it's really exciting to explore all the
This is
possibilities with
true.
Aaron and our listeners. It's also a great reminder of how much fun it can be to get lost in a good story. So,
This is true.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Hmm.
kind of wild. Like again, it's like I think that sounds like me at my most corporate and
Yeah.
sanitized. It didn't swear once, but
Hmm.
that's not a bad answer. That's not a bad answer.
Yeah, I agree with its sentiment on the final season of Breaking Bad. I mean, that was great. Shit, we did a live event to
Yeah.
watch the finale, and that was a ton of fun. Yeah.
If I take a serious stab at answering this question, I don't know about favorite moments of Bald Move, man. That's a
Right.
tough one question to ask. I feel like we get asked it a lot. But I think the thing that makes Bald Move is Jim and I's long-standing relationship. Like you can't fake something that goes back 30 plus years. And I'm not aware of anyone else in the podcasting game that has that kind of thing. Like you can certainly bring it, you can get, if you spend 5 plus years podcasting with somebody, you can get a close relationship, but like
Hmm.
yeah, I think what we got special.
Yeah, totally. The way we kind of work off each other. Um, and I do think it's like part of that dynamic where like we're not afraid to be crass and childish and silly, but we
Hmm.
also do take things seriously and talk as intelligently as we can about certain things, right? It's got
Right.
those two elements that I think is what the audience appreciates about us. And it's so often missing from other podcasters. I feel like a lot of podcasters are so caught up in trying to be professional or trying to be like serious and analyze media, and they forget that like ultimately you're an entertainer is what you are.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
that comes in different flavors, but I feel like people like all types of flavors, and that's maybe why we have a mass appeal. I don't know. I guess I would call it a mass appeal.
Mass appeal. Complete bore says, is it too early to tell, or has Savage Starlight appearances on the show given the podcast a boost? It's really tough because this show has been steadily growing week over week. So like we've had like there was something like a 15% bump from episode 3 to the episode 4, and it looks like episode 5 is going to be even bigger. Um, to compare it to Hot, I think so. Like maybe it's good to compare it to Hot D. So like Hot D's best week, which was the finale week, because it grew a little bit, it from week to week. But the total traffic in just the Hot D feed, this doesn't include Pulp because Pulp gets a good amount too. But all three podcasts in one week, that's the instant, the main podcast, and the feedback podcast did about 188,000 downloads in that one week. The last full week you got for Tlu, its best week, is 55,000 total. So it's about a third of that. But Hot D also was an existing feed that had tens of thousands of existing subscribers. Tlu is brand new. Tlu started off with about 5,000 people watching it. Hot D came out with 5 million people watching it. Hot D had 10 million people watching it from the jump. So I, but the bottom line is I'm incredibly pleased
Hmm.
with the reception of Tlu. It's one of those things where selfishly I wish it was going to have 5 or 6 seasons. It's going to have probably 2, maybe 3 if we're lucky. But like, yeah, I think this is going to continue to grow, and I think if this ends the way I think it's capable of ending, season 2 is going to be some massive fucking number when it comes back because the word of mouth on this
Yeah.
is going to spread like a cordyceps infection.
Hmm.
Um, Mr. X says, happy lunch, happy guys. Happy lunch, happy guys to you, Mr. X. We have a 7-year-old who's way into Star Wars. Just finished watching the 9 main films, and he's also into the Clone Wars series. Star Wars is an easy sell for a kid that age, even Shudder, the prequels. Yeah, pretty much. My question is, do you have any advice on introducing them to Trek? Is he the right age, or should I wait until he's more mature? I feel like if I threw him into TNG, which I grew up with, he'd be bored. The Abrams new Trek would probably be more appealing to him, but part of me would hate for that to be his baseline Star Trek moving forward. Is TOS too dated or weird to appeal to modern kiddo? Yeah, fuck it. Just throw him on Doctor Who. Like, not the new shit either. The old weird one where he had curly hair and a 6-foot rainbow scarf.
Yeah. What do you
It,
think? 12 years old is TNG time?
it's tough because he says, Aaron, you seem to have raised a discerning young sci-fi fan. Any pointers? I don't try to push
Yeah, yeah.
old science fiction that hasn't aged well on him. Because at this point, I think he would hate all of Star Trek that I showed him, with the possible exception of Strange New Worlds. So there's my answer. If you want to start a kid on Star Trek, I'd go Strange New Worlds, because I think the first two seasons of TNG are just god awful bad. It gets pretty good from 3 to 6, but like still the special effects and just the storylines and whatnot. I mean, again, this is probably heresy and people are having a fucking heart attack, but I'm just giving you a straight answer of how, and that's the other thing. It's like, do you want to raise a child that is fluent in 30 and 40-year-old science fiction stuff and they have no way to relate to their fellow boys and girls at school?
Their fellow teens.
Like,
sure.
definitely make sure they're getting contemporary culture too. So they're not weird, or they're not perceived as weird.
Mhm.
Because yeah, I think one of the I had multiple reasons where I had trouble in school fitting in. The whole Jehovah's Witness thing was a non-starter, but also yeah, like as a result of that, a lot of my pop culture stuff was influenced by like what my parents' tastes were. And just me finding stuff that I was, what of all the universe of things I'm allowed to watch and partake, which wasn't much, what can I get into? And science fiction was the thing. Not even really fantasy, because I was banned from doing that. But like, there was my mom, like, she saw Spaceship on the cover, she didn't even crack it because I don't think she was interested in it, and she just assumed, oh, this is some Star Trek stuff, so probably maybe it'll be some evolution stuff that I don't approve of, but nothing bad. And I've said as many times, the joke's on her, because holy shit. Some of that old science fiction stuff is written by filthy, horny old men.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Niven, you should be ashamed of yourself. Ray Bradbury, what were you thinking? Having your compendiums in the junior high library. My God.
And it's subversive as hell too. I mean,
It's very subversive. Anti-authoritarian, anti-religion, anti-tradition. Yeah.
Did you ever think about swapping out the cover art of your Metallica albums so she wouldn't break them in two? Would that have worked? Like,
Well,
get
the
a
thing
disc
is
label and...
It's not. Here's the thing. It's not like I had these out on my desk.
Okay.
These were hidden to the rate of like a high-end drug dealer. Like, I wasn't quite like taking apart my walls and hiding them in this 2x4s
but in
and
the
whatnot.
vents,
But
but in the vents, right?
I did vents. I did between the box
Jesus.
frame and mattress. I did underneath in my underwear drawer. So like, yeah, if I'm just trying to think, if maybe I should have hid them in plain sight. I should have like
Exactly.
labeled them as Kingdom Melodies, and just put those on
Uh-huh.
the shelf. But my mom was maniacal. Like, I could never hide contraband well enough to keep her from finding it. So
Yeah.
um,
Anyway,
anyway,
yeah, that seems like a reasonable way to go about it.
yeah, just try to do the new stuff, the stuff that you and the other. Yeah, But Star Trek has just been in a. I mean, we talk about Star Wars, right? But like Star Trek's really been in a wilderness of late, in my opinion. So
Oh yeah,
maybe
it's starting to find its footing.
Strange New
I
Worlds
was
is anyway.
Yeah, I like Strange New Worlds. I really like Lower Decks. I was
Ooh, has that got too adult humor, or would a kid like Lower Decks?
It has both. I think a kid might like Lower Decks quite a bit. And it has a lot of references. That might be decent because it has a lot of references in it to older Star Trek and newer Star Trek too. So that might be something where you can get them into it, and then they'll realize, like, oh, there's a lot of other Star Trek. Let me go back and watch that, and they'll see, oh, TNG has like all this stuff that they were talking about in Lower Decks. It actually happened in TNG. That's cool, I was actually kind of surprised. I don't know if surprised is the word. Gratified because Alexis and I are watching Deep Space Nine right now.
Hmm.
We're about 16 episodes in, I think, to the first season, and she's really enjoying it. She's appreciating all of the character work, let's say, because they do a significant amount of that in that first season.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I was happy to see that.
Spurious says Jim has mentioned maybe on a recent lunch that he's into stories about the early computer revolution, about how brands and businesses are born. I happen to be in the same thing. These kind of stories give me a strange feeling of comfort and satisfaction, almost bordering on a weird kind of euphoria. Anyway, I was wondering if Jim could share some of his favorite books, TV shows, or movies about the topic. I have a recommendation released just a few days ago, even though it doesn't cover this specific period of time. It's called Psych Odyssey. It's a 32-part documentary on YouTube
Yes.
by Two Player Productions covering 7 years of game development at Double Fine Productions, creating Psychonauts 2. If you haven't played Psychonauts and know almost nothing about the I haven't played Psychonauts and know almost nothing about the game itself, but the documentary is very interesting insight into this line of work.
Yeah, totally. They did one of these for the original Psychonauts as well, and I watched that a long time ago. But yeah, apparently this one is just like as exhaustive as the first one was, and as interesting. I haven't got around to it. It's a lot to watch. It's like watching 2 seasons of television. But I want to. It's currently open in a tab in my browser. Just have to get around to it. I
I think.
I
Go
like
ahead.
kind of trashy stuff on the topic. Like the thing is, when I got into this and I started getting interested in that period of history and these personalities and stuff, there wasn't a lot of good filmmaking around it. Um, there still isn't a ton of great filmmaking around it, which is surprising to me. We're starting to get more and more now as we get 40 years out, 50 years out from this stuff. But like Pirates of Silicon Valley was an early one that shaped my interest in this genre. It's probably super shitty, but like Noah Wiley as Steve Jobs and what's his face, the Breakfast Club guy, right? Is it Anthony Michael Hall? Is he Bill Gates in that?
Is he really?
I want to say he was, but I really like that movie. I bet it's super cheesy now.
Oh God, he is. He was Bill Gates.
Yeah, that's a good one.
John DiMaggio is Steve Ballmer. Isn't that the voice of Bender? Oh my
Re-
God, it is. Wow.
no,
Yeah,
really?
I know. I saw that so long ago, and I'm like looking at all the names I would now recognize.
Oh, I bet there's a few.
Uh, yeah, that's Melissa McBride as Elizabeth
Okay,
Holmes. No fucking
not
shot.
that Elizabeth Holmes.
I mean, who else would it? Yeah, there's no way. She's
She
way too
wouldn't be
young,
old.
right?
Yeah, she'd be zero. She'd be -8 years old or something. Yeah, I'm trying to think of others that like off the top of my head I really liked. Um, what one? So I watch a lot of YouTube more than anything now, and one of the channels that I watch is Danny O'Dwyer's company. After he left GameSpot, he started doing a series called No Clip, and that does a lot of retrospective documentary style videos on old video games and things. And a lot of times they go to the studios and they talk to the people who actually made those old games. Like they did one on Half-Life. I think it was Half-Life in general. That was really good. They did um, some stuff on Bethesda's games that I really enjoyed, but that channel is really good. It's No Clip on YouTube. As far as books go, I don't know. I did not read a lot of books from like the 90s the through like 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Let's see. Oh, Jasmine, here's something. If you want a producer's perspective on entertaining lunches, she typed up a couple. Episode 368 is A Hard Knob Life. 361, Paul Goblin Matty drinking rum. Was this the one
Oh,
where
it's the
we
AI.
got the AI and gener? Okay.
Hmm.
Episode 356, The Legends of Bypax. This one is really fun. Apparently, that's probably us talking about Bypack stuff, which is always a good time.
Hmm.
And episode 353, It's Wild That We're Not Crazier. This is the one chat was referring to where Aaron's audio wasn't working. And I was just I was doing like the chroma filters and just like making it, yeah, having an LSD trip over here.
Oh, and Fisher
Uh,
Protocol in chat says watch *Halt and Catch Fire*. Yes, *Halt and Catch Fire* is very good. It's all fictional, but it's all like roughly based on real life stuff. So I found that extremely entertaining.
The Gabagool says, me, a reporter from Chicago, approaches you, an Ohio resident coming out of Taco Bell with 5 Mexican pizzas in hand. Hello, sir. What are your thoughts on the East Palestine chemical derailment and initial mainstream media blackout? Is there a media? Okay. Man, this is like the nexus of all my frustrations with the world because you have a very serious event
Hmm.
that I've tried reasonably hard to get good information on, and it's just full to the brim of people posting bullshit.
Yes.
And it's very hard to tell the real stuff from the bad stuff, even if you don't go into the fucking Chernobyl of it all. And because, like, for what the initial mainstream media blackout, I don't know what people are talking about because this was like front page news on all of the main media sites the day it happened for sure.
Hmm.
And it still is like not hard to find on any of the main pages of a news site today. So like how is this like everyone says it got mainstream media blackout, but like it did all kinds of numbers on all the social media I'm on, all on Reddit. If you went to MSNBC, CNN, Fox News the day of, it was covered, still is covered. Like this feels like people, you know what it feels like? It feels like people want this to be Chernobyl. And people,
Yeah.
it feels like people want the government to be telling wild naked lies about it. It feels like people want the mainstream media to be in on it and to be complicit in it. And it feels like they want this all to be the result of a giant corporation that just recently shit on a whole bunch of rail workers and made them work and screwed them out of like, and there are elements of truth to all of that.
Well, how about
But at the end
this?
of the day, I will fucking drink vinyl chloride myself if it turns out that the Norfolk Rail owns the media and the government and is dictating to them, like it might be I might be drinking some vinyl chloride in the future. But I just think like goddamn, can people engage in this in some kind of like holistic way? All right?
Hmm.
Jesus, that's my opening salvo on it.
Well, you say people. I'm not sure we can identify all these entities discussing it, the media blackout, as people. That's the thing, and I don't want to get like too conspiratorial, but this could be a situation where that message is being put out there by
Yeah.
entities that are not people, by bots, by
Uh,
interested parties. I mean, we are living in an era where you can manufacture a bunch of accounts and have a computer just write a bunch of messages
this is
and
true.
literally go post that to create a narrative that does not exist. Because I'm with you. So I don't get my news from mainstream media. I read Reddit and I read the AP every single day, and
The
that's where I get
Associated
my
Press is
news.
pretty mainstream media, but it's like the
Yeah, but
source.
it's this right. It's going to the horse's mouth, right? It's not actually like filtered through anybody else. I don't watch like CNN, MSNBC, any of
Hmm.
that stuff. So like I don't know. Am I engaging with the places where people are complaining about? Probably not. But what I'm seeing is it's talked about everywhere,
Hmm.
constantly. I mean, the AP has done no fewer than 15 articles on it in the last week. So,
Hmm.
and it's all over Reddit. I mean, Reddit's talking about it constantly.
And unfortunately, the stuff that's getting upvoted to the Reddit, I think, is a lot of kind of. Let's. So what happened? What actually happened was a train got derailed. Some of the cars were carrying this incredibly dangerous substance. It's a massive carcinogen. It would be very bad to get into our watershed and water streams. It's vinyl chloride, right?
Hmm. Of that's one of the things. Yeah.
One of the things. And they made a snap decision to combust vinyl chloride and burn it, open air burn it, because the risk of it getting into the ground and the groundwater was seen as like a huge risk, and the
It's
people on the
extremely
ground.
it's volatile too. The thing about vinyl chloride,
Yes,
it's extremely volatile. It was probably going to explode anyway and
yes,
cause more of a problem than if they
right,
kind of put it in a ditch and burned it all.
right. So that's what they did. And it's my understanding that when you combust that, it turns into hydrogen chloride. And when that gets absorbed into water vapor, it turns into hydrochloric acid. That sounds really fucking bad. Clouds of hydrochloric acid raining down on Ohio. However, if you're a Gen Xer and you grew up in the 70s and 80s where like acid rain was just a fucking thing
Hmm.
because we hadn't figured out to put mufflers on the coal stacks to like scrub all the hydrogen chloride is going up in the atmosphere, turning it like we were actually having marble buildings and gravestones and shit melt over acid rain. My understanding is the acid rain that this incident is going to generate is a little bit stronger than the baseline acid rain that we played out in as kids when I was growing up. And it's going to last for several weeks, not years and years and decades. Now, it could be that this is the Chernobyl scene where a guy's
Hmm.
saying 360 rims, not good, not great, not terrible. It's like a chest x-ray because they don't have but I have seen like experts essentially say out of all the things you could do, that was not a bad thing to do. Like
Hmm.
it's would be far worse to let that vinyl chloride sit around, react, explode, leach into groundwater. Acid rain's not great. Downwind, it's and again, and also I think there's going to be a huge scandal of all these people involved in the working and the cleanup in the immediate area. I would not be surprised if their lifetime risk of cancer just got way elevated. Um,
Hmm.
but like the actual handling of the post derailment, I don't think is a huge scandal, and I also don't think it's going to pose a permanent health risk to those of us in Ohio. What do you think, Jim? Because I heard you and Talta talking when I was getting a drink, and I think that you disagree, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I don't like carcinogens leaching into the water that we use here in Cincinnati, frankly, to drink. Right, like this is something
Yeah.
that's coming down the Ohio River at us, and it has already probably reached us, I assume. Uh,
Because
the
I've looked at the
the
daily and they haven't detected at least vinyl chloride in the Ohio River. I haven't up until like I think 2 days ago is the last report I saw.
Ohio
But
River's big, it's probably very, very diluted at this point if it gets down to
sure.
Cincinnati. So
And they
I
lit
don't
again
know.
the bulk of that got lit on fire and converted to acid rain.
Right,
So
right. Yeah,
great.
great. Uh, that's the thing, though. I'm not as so I'm worried, obviously, because I know that there are now carcinogenic chemicals in the water I'm probably drinking. To what degree, I'm not sure. Probably not much.
Yeah.
But the thing that's more offensive to me and more worrisome is how it happened and how it's going to end. Like how it happened, apparently, there's been this whole thing with rail workers saying, hey, we are overworked. There are not enough of us to do the safety checks that we need to do in order to make this stuff run. They tried to strike because they were being overworked and they wanted to get some time off and shit. And our government said, no, you cannot strike, which
Hmm.
is an insane idea to me, but that's how it happened. And so they went back to
Yeah.
work. And then you have trains derailing. I mean, there was another one here in Detroit that derailed like
Just
yesterday.
happened. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm extremely disturbed by that, the way
And can
it
we talk about
started.
that? Because like I always, when these things happen, I always try to examine my priors because it flatters my worldview that these derailments are a direct result of them not refusing to improve worker conditions. Like
Of
that
course,
hits
yeah.
all the Aaron buttons. You fucking assholes, instead of like making these people's lives better and heading off an easy to foresee disaster, you fucking didn't do it, and 3 months later it bit you in the ass. I want to believe, which is why I'm very
Sure.
skeptical that you can draw a direct line between President Biden telling the rail workers to shut
Of
up and get back to
course.
work and this environmental catastrophe happening twice in a week. But do you understand?
It,
Like,
yeah, there is no direct line, but it's an attitude, right? It's a general uh,
and it might be
positioning on
100% true. I'm just saying that
sure.
the things that flatter my worldview, I need to see like, and I don't need to stake out a hard stand right now because there's going to be a whole ass hearing
Hmm.
and tons of it. So like, I just from my point of view, like when something like this happens, it just seems so served up as a cudgel to beat my political opponents. I'm like, oh geez, like I don't want to pick
Totally.
that club up until I know it's not going to break when I start beating people with it, right?
Yeah, fair. Yeah. The other aspect of this that I really find even more offensive is the reaction to it by the company, Norfolk Southern. Their proposal was to give the town of several thousand people that's nearby, that's closest to the site, 25,000 total dollars as
For the whole
compensation
town,
to clean
not per
this up.
family.
No, it worked out to about $5 per family
Jesus.
per person. Sorry, that's a joke. That's not even a joke. That's an insult. That
Yeah.
is beyond callous.
Yeah.
It's like what can we pay to make it look like we give a shit about this? Is what that
Right.
is. And
Right.
the
But
number
not
ain't
too
25
much. But
grand. The
not too
number
much
is
because
way higher.
we don't want to look guilty on the civil suit that's going to be coming down the pike for
Right.
sure.
Right.
Uh, I'll
That's
I'll
the
I'll
more offensive part to me. And
I'll
that's the
throw another
concrete
offensive
part.
thing.
Hmm.
I think the fact that some journalists have been jailed and arrested over asking questions. Like I just watched a guy where the like some colonel in the Ohio National Guard. This guy was kind of being an ass and asking pointed questions and not taking no for an answer. But the police pulled him aside. And the administrators at the facility trespassed him and said, "You got to leave now." And the guy was
Hmm.
cooperating. And these goons, as soon as they got him outside the gymnasium, did a brutal takedown. A single journalist in front of all the camera crews. And I'm like, see, this is the
Yeah.
kind of shit where it's like, I just want to pick up the cudgel and start going to town because, like, if this was all in the up and up, why would you do this? But, like, life is replete with
Yep.
situations where you could see, like, this looks terrible. Why would you do this? And people do it all the time,
It's a general
especially
attitude.
fucking cops.
Yeah.
Because it's like Jim says, a general attitude. You're not complying. That means I get to do whatever the fuck I want with you.
Hmm.
And like every one of the journalists that I know of so far, the Attorney General has dropped the charges, said it was all a misunderstanding,
Hmm.
fiasco, all that kind of stuff. But that's bullshit too, right?
Sure.
So I am, as a concerned citizen, monitoring the situation. But like some of this stuff is like it's going to be a while before we get an understanding of everything that's happened.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't be outraged from the jump that all this stuff but like I want to be appropriately alarmed.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't want to treat 3 Mile Island like it was Chernobyl, right?
Hmm.
Uh and I honestly, like, again, my mind is way open to the idea this could be a Chernobyl, and we could be talking about millions of people in Ohio with an enhanced cancer risk, which is bad. That could be an extra 100,000 people dead over the course of a generation.
Especially young people.
That's
Yeah. That's.
especially young people, mothers that are pregnant right now, stuff like that I'm concerned
Hmm.
with. But I just don't know. And I saw a lot of takes where it's like they took vinyl chloride and set it on fire and put it in the atmosphere. Look at these dark clouds going, and it looks bad. But like, what if that was the best thing? The best thing to do
It
is for
was
the
in the
vinyl chloride
atmosphere,
not.
right?
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
on.
right,
It was sitting on a tanker that was about to explode. So like,
right, right, right.
yeah, I don't really have a problem with the way they proceeded after the crash. It's
Yeah,
what took place before, and it's what the company is doing afterward. That's offensive to me.
yeah. So we got to check. We got to see, like, it's going to be really important when you start hearing, Olivia saying, I think they could say it's to start showing up in the river tomorrow. Like, really pay attention to parts per million. Because, like, the presence of, like, 1 billionth of a part of vinyl chloride per water probably is not a concern. But,
She
like,
she also says Greater Cincinnati Waterworks closed the water intake from the Ohio River, so we're going to be running on reserves until hopefully, I guess, this stuff flows past us into our
Yeah.
larger water supply. Yeah.
Yeah. When that's sounds like a reasonable precaution to take, right? Like if you don't
Uh-huh.
know, why wouldn't you stop? If
Right.
you got reserves, why wouldn't you,
It's what
right?
the reserves are for. Yeah.
But a lot of people are going to see that and like they know, they fucking know, and it's like I don't know.
You're gonna
That's
don't blame the people who are trying to do the right thing here. Like that's
yeah.
asinine.
All right. That's my initial thoughts. We'll probably have others in the months ahead. Todd says, "Hey guys, would love to get your predictions for Mandalorian season 3 after a mixed reception to Book of Boba Fett got. Will season 3 return to full strength again?" God, I hope so, because it's going to be a real
It should.
bummer if we take time out of our busy schedule to cover this. Because honestly, the thing that's hooking me is the promise that we're going to get into the cult of Mandalore.
Mm,
We're going to explore all these different schisms and stuff. And, I'm not expecting like Andor,
right.
but I'm expecting something a little bit more complex than the Book of Boba Fett, something a little bit more well executed.
It'd be hard not to execute better and be more complex than
Yeah.
Book of Boba Fett. That was not the greatest of series. Some might say it was absolute shit. Um, yeah, I guess I'm excited for it. I'm trying not to get my hopes up though,
Yeah.
because expectations will probably only ruin that thing for me.
The Nerd Master says, "Hey guys, happy Friday. Just listening to your Untouchables pod on the way to work, and Aaron compared the famous baby stroller scene to it having an MLK speech in a Naked Gun movie. Allow me to share this scene from Naked Gun 33 and a third to Final Insult. And they did a whole 5-minute gag on the staircase. And I forgot the funniest
Wow.
part of that, which is there's all these baby carriages going down and all these babies in the air, and O.J. Simpson,
Uh-huh.
famed murderer, is in the background catching all of these infants, and then he gets so caught up in it. At one point, he's like starting to do like a touchdown celebration. Looks like he's going to spike one of the babies on the ground. Oh.
Brilliant.
But I was like, the whole time I was like literally biting my nails and like, oh my God, are they gonna like knock over him? Because like the Pope is coming down. Like all these crazy things come down the staircase between Leslie Nielsen and the guy he's trying to shoot. And I'm like, are they
Wow.
really gonna knock over a guy that looks like MLK? And they didn't. But
Good. Good.
uh Pressy says, "Great news. Ryan Johnson and myself loved your most recent quips, and he wants you to write for season 2 of Poker Face. Who are you getting to guest star as the murderer and the victim?" See, I
I
haven't seen
haven't
Poker
seen
Face
it.
yet.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Poker Face,
Mm.
so I can't play along. I'm sorry. Mr. X says, "The Tetris movie looks right up you and Jim's alley." We just watched a trailer yesterday because
Hmm.
you hipped me to it. Taron Egerton, what a fascinating young man. He is going to be the Russian that invents
No,
Tetris.
no. So I told you this yesterday. I
What?
thought he was going to be based on the screenshot. When I watched the trailer, he's not. He's the American who's bringing
Oh,
Pagenov's game to the States and the Game Boy. So yeah. He's
still,
it's gonna
he
be
looks like a Russian nerd in the trailer I was seeing.
sure,
So
sure.
like I bought it. And I'm thinking, yeah, well that's really cool. He plays a fuckboy super secret agent, Elton John, and a Russian Tetris genius. That's
Hmm.
what a career to have as a young man. But yeah, no, this looks good. This is an Apple TV series, right?
I think this is a movie.
Oh, is it a movie? Oh,
Yeah,
great.
the
That would be
series we were
awesome.
looking at was Extrapolations and Hello Tomorrow.
Yeah, Apple TV Plus is coming up with a lot of really interesting sci-fi concepts. You throw
Yes,
Foundation in that mix for all mankind, like
I love their
that's an impressive
vibe.
portfolio. They're going for like hardcore nerd shit,
Uh huh.
like Ted Lasso is the one maybe more, it's like all sports, but
And
they
the
got
morning
the
show, that one is
mm,
and physical. Like they're doing some other stuff that isn't nerd shit, but they've got a lot of nerd shit, and
a lot
I'm
of flagship
here
stuff
for
is
it.
nerd science fiction stuff, yeah.
And it isn't always like the absolute best stuff you've seen, but if they can like pump out this type of content with slightly higher quality stuff, oh man, I'm so in on Apple. And we need it, right? Like
Uh,
HBO is the only outlet that's pumping out like consistently amazing content. I would love to
Yeah.
see another player get into that game with as much money as Apple has
And
and
that's the
just
thing. Apple
really
has
start.
so much money.
Yeah, they could pay the best in the business to do what they do. So,
Michelle says Ted Lasso season 3 in a month. Oh my God, they're trying to kill us with content.
hmm
Yeah, we saw that. We'll probably be talking about OTC. But yeah, I'm really excited about Ted Lasso. Maybe ending, maybe wrapping things up.
oh, okay.
I've heard, but I don't know. That might be old news. Nickbo says, has the Bald Move fam heard about The Expanse continuing in graphic novel form? Have you heard about this as Dragon Tooth graphic novel?
No.
It's going to, I think, fill in the gaps of like what the crew, the Rocinante, does in between book 6 and 7,
Okay.
which is not, well, when I first heard this, I thought, oh my God, they're going to do a graphic novel series based on 7, 8, and 9. I'm like, that sounds fucking amazing.
hmm
So cool. I'm a little bit less jazzed about essentially Expanse fan fiction, but
Yeah, fan fiction probably written at least partially by the authors of the original materials. So,
maybe I don't.
God, I would
I guess
hope so.
it says it's overseen by James S.A. Corey, which is
Okay.
that doesn't say written to me. That seems
Yeah.
like maybe signed some concept art and said, yeah, okay. Because I think James S.A. I think those two guys are done with the Expanse. Like
Really?
if
Done with the
yeah,
Expanse.
yeah, they actually have a lot of other things they want to get to, is what I've seen from them. Now, I mean, obviously, if they make movies or TV shows, they'd be involved in that. But as far as
Yeah,
generating entirely new Expanse content, I don't think they're interested.
that makes sense.
Dan and Ty, I keep on forgetting what their names are. Let's see. George Exile says, "Hey guys, happy lunch. I haven't watched Netflix's 1899. Tried to listen to your season wrap up to see how you guys liked it, but I didn't get to that part out of fear of getting spoiled.
Mm.
Dudes is canceled. I just want to know if it's worth the watch." I think that's the first thing we say. In my opinion, and this seems to be controversial in the Bald Move family, no. No. It's like if I sold you a 500 piece puzzle and I only gave you the first 180 pieces, would you buy it? Would you
Of
think
course
it's
not.
fun to put that together? Because you'll
No.
never know what it's going to be. So no, I think it's a giant waste of your time. But it is pretty intriguing as a first chapter and probably a 3 or 4 or 5 chapter book. But yeah, I wouldn't mess with it.
Yeah, if I told you that the greatest fantasy author of our era was going to write 4 out of his 6 books, would you buy them?
5 out of 7, damn it, get
Five
the
out of
ratio
seven.
right.
Sorry. Of course not, right? You would say
And it's
no.
not that he
I'm not
died or stopped writing. Oh no, no, he's written hundreds of thousands of more words. This is spent on shit no one cares about. So.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Jamie Down says, "Happy boys lunch guys." Happy boys lunch guys to you too, Jamie. Hope your recovery from Groundhog's Day is going well. I'm fully recovered. What
Oh yeah.
about you, Jim?
Yeah. Totally.
Thank you for the insightful and entertaining coverage with Hot D and T-Lou and doing some great movie choices like Citizen Kane and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. I, for one, greatly appreciate the variety.
Well, yeah, Dr. DeVito to blame for that one, not us.
Secondly, I'd like to shout out to the awesome and friendly community on Discord, YouTube, and everywhere else. It's become a ritual at home for me to watch something like T-Lou and immediately hop into the instant talk and interact with the great people out there. Everyone's super nice, respectful of each other, and very insightful and fun as well. Yes, we have
Mm-hmm.
much to be proud of here. Going back to Citizen Kane, I've never seen it, and I'm hoping to go as long as possible to not see it, only to spite myself. It's been this long, why watch it now? All
Mm-hmm.
jokes aside, what are some either classic or modern classic films you've never seen and kind of figure, I'll get to it one day, despite the common consensus being you should have seen this one already? Thanks again for all the hard work and great content you guys do. Ooh, this is a good one.
Citizen Kane was definitely that for me. There's a classic example of this that I have now seen. It's The Princess Bride. Uh,
Mm,
that was one of those movies where I did exactly the same thing you did. Not like to spite myself or anything, but like it became a joke among our friends group that I had never seen The Princess Bride, and yet every time it was on, or every time we would game together, it was like on in the background, you know. So I knew all the scenes and stuff. I didn't feel like I needed to see it. Uh, and so like have to keep the joke alive, have to spite myself or whatever. I just refused to ever watch it. But we eventually got that commissioned, so I did watch it.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking at the AFI's top 100 because that's what kind of been my parameter for a long time of like the things I need to see. And I've seen every like Bald Move has sealed a lot of these holes. I've seen now everything in the top 10.
Hmm.
I had Raging Bull was a big hole for the longest time, and we just saw that a couple years back. Did a podcast on it. Sing in the Rain, I hadn't seen. That was number
Hmm.
5, and Cecily suggested we watch it. It's like one of my all-time favorites now. In the top 20, like I haven't seen City Lights. This is from 1931. It's a Charlie Chaplin. A lot of silent era I
Hmm.
haven't seen. I have seen The Searchers, Star Wars, Psycho, 2001, Sunset Boulevard. I haven't seen.
The silent era movies are just so hard to watch when you're scrolling through Twitter, you know?
You can't background watch the silent
Yeah,
movies.
I
Yeah,
really can't. It sucks.
yeah. On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando. I think let's see. I'm actually tracking the two big holes I'm trying to fill right now are Kubrick,
Mm.
Martin Scorsese, and Daniel Day-Lewis. And I'm real close on Scorsese and Daniel
Yeah,
Day-Lewis now.
we've seen a lot of
But
those in the last couple of years.
but Kubrick, I've got some pretty big holes I haven't seen here. Where's your filmography, you son of a bitch?
Really?
God damn, his Wikipedia article's a million miles long. Here we go. I haven't seen any of the stuff before Spartacus. So Killer's Kiss, The Killing, Pass of Glory. Pass of Glory
Oh
is the one
yeah.
I'm really curious about seeing. Lolita, I haven't seen. I don't know that I care to. Doctor Strangelove, 2001, Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon. Just saw Barry Lyndon. We never released a podcast for it because we both thought the movie sucked, but I did see it.
Didn't we?
Shining,
Oh
Full Metal
boy.
Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut. So I really just need to go back and see Killer's Kiss, The Killing, and Pass of Glory, all of his United Artists movies, and I will have all of the Kubrick collection.
Yeah, for me, it's probably Hitchcock. I've seen
That's another good
two
one.
Hitchcock movies. I saw that Rear Window because we did a podcast on it, and I saw
Hmm.
Psycho because we did a podcast. I had never seen either of those to date. The other one that I definitely need to see because it's talked about as one of the best films ever made is Vertigo. I just,
That's
yeah,
in the top
something is
10.
not driving me to see that. I don't know why.
It's really good. That's the
That's
thing. Is
what I
like
hear.
God damn, Hitchcock made way more. I'll never see every Hitchcock movie.
He had a
Oh
whole
my
career before
God.
the career that people talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, he must have made like 50 films before
And then
1950.
after too, yeah, he had a lot of
Right,
movies.
right. Um, but yeah, I've seen, but like, yeah, like because of the AFI, I had seen Vertigo and North by Northwest, which are things
Oh, nice.
I would like to get those into too, or I'd like to get more of that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of My Left Foot is a big Daniel Day-Lewis that's still hanging out there. What's the Martin Scorsese one that's because I'm getting real close to seeing all of his movies. Let me see here. Where's their filmography? God, these big, important directors have Wikipedia articles a mile long. Oh man. Oh, see, there's so many. There's another one. It's like before Raging. Okay, so I've seen Taxi Driver. I haven't seen Who's Knocking at My Door. Boxcar Bertha, Mean Streets. Alice doesn't live
Hmm.
here anymore. New York, New York. King of Comedy. After. Oh, okay. I got
Hmm.
way more movies. I'm starting to get the modern era
Oh
of
yeah.
course Scorsese under my belt. I think I've seen everything except for Kundun. Where the hell that is?
Hmm.
Oh, it's about the 14th Dalai Lama. All right. Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm running out of time. So, Ani B says, "How funny you guys mentioned 1899. I just came here to beg Aaron and Jim to watch the TV series From. I have to say, it more than helps get rid of the very bitter aftertaste of the immense disappointment of 1899. Um, so yeah, this TV series From stars Harold Perrineau, which is Walt. He's Walt's father
Hmm.
from Lost. Plus, some of the crew also worked on Lost, including Javier Grillo Markoch,
Hmm.
who apparently was in their graduating class at CMU. Please give this guy show a watch. It really helps kill the bitter aftertaste of 1899. With no expectations going in, I was blown away. Yeah, I don't know. I've never. What the fuck? The second season premieres in April 23. It's on MGM. Oh, Jesus Christ! It's on MGM Plus. Are you and three other people
MG.
watching it?
How's it not on Amazon Prime? It's got to be on Amazon Prime if it's on
It's
MGM
an
Plus, right?
it's an MGM Plus original, baby. It's got to be, right?
How Amazon owns MGM, so if not, they're like double dipping in a weird way.
All right, Ani says, please, please, please watch the first two episodes. Let us know what you think. Oh, let me tell you about something called a commission podcast. It's the only way to guarantee us to watch two of anything, and it's probably your best bet because I gotta say,
Right
I'm full
now?
up on television right now.
Yeah.
Robot K says, hey, fellas, happy Friday. Listening to your Ant-Man Quantumania pod this morning made me wonder if both of you were to be cast in the MCU, which characters would you be?
Oh
I know
God,
Jim
I'd
is
be a
less
bad
in the
guy. Apparently.
I know Jim is less in the Marvel and the comic book worlds, but curious to know who you think you most might be yourselves and who you'd cast each other to be. I'd be Fat Thor, obviously.
Okay.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's easy. Jim would be who is that God Killer guy? Because you're an atheist.
Oh, Christian Bale's
Uh
character in
yeah.
Place
Gore.
Thor.
Gore the God Killer. Yeah, you'd be
Gore.
Gore the God Killer because you're pasty white and you hate religion.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go with that. I would like to think that I would be Jeff Goldblum's character from Ragnarok, but I'm not that
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Aaron is Red Guardian. That's another good one.
Who's that?
That's Sheriff Hopper stuffed in a commie Captain America suit from the
Oh,
Black
oh.
Widow standalone.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. So there we go. Who would you cast me as?
Who I cast you as?
Yeah.
Uh, boy. How about Jeff? That's not Jeff Daniels. Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges character from Iron Man 2. Not
Warmonger?
that guy. No. No, or Iron Man 1 rather.
Yeah, it's Iron Man 1.
Yeah, he
I
showed
thought his name was
Ironmonger.
Ironmonger. Ironmonger.
Fucking cave. Is that who it is? I
Yeah,
don't know
I
his
think
name.
Jebediah Strang. Is that his name?
Strang? Strang sounds
Yeah.
right.
Obadiah Stane.
Obadiah Stang?
Stank. Obadiah
Stang.
Stank.
Put some Stang on it. Obadiah Stain. It's Stain. Stane. Ironmonger. Yeah, you'd be Ironmonger. Interesting.
Sure. Yeah, you just shave the head real close. You bleach the beard. You got it.
I could do it. Yeah, I could. I mean, I already called Fat Thor, but yeah, I could bleach my beard and be pretty close. I'd have to lose some weight, put on a suit. I can do those things. All right. That's it. We got to record a Picard episodes. We got to go.
Yes.
Thank you for rounding out lunch again with all your great questions and participation contributions. Um, only some of which were artificially generated. We'll be back next week with another thrilling episode of Lunch with Jim and Aaron. Thank you so much for your constant support. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to get your questions in next week if you want to go to the forums or the Discord or hit me up on Twitter with #BaldLunch. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of movies coming out. We just did Ant-Man and the Wasp. We're doing Cocaine Bear next week and Creed 3 the week after. Lots of premium club content. We're taking a 1 week break from Quip so that we can hit you with an OTC next week. Again, there's going to be just be prepared for the amount of content that's going to be coming out over the next like 2 months from Bald Move. It's going to be intense, and we got Baldies just around the corner. Be on the lookout for as soon as I can get into our goddamn Survey Monkey account. I'm going to send out the first round of Baldies voting. So probably look for that early next week, and we'll be getting our Baldies out the week before the Oscars release. So I'm pretty excited about that too. Great. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the last vestiges of winter, and we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.